time, but we are, and that's why we cry out, do not delay. We want to be delivered as soon as we can, and there's a wonderful example of it in the Bible, and it's a parable. It's only in one of the Gospels. It's in the Gospel of Luke, and does anybody know what that picture represents? What the parable of what? The lost son. Yeah, the parable of the prodigal son. And we have all gone through a season like that, or maybe we all have, or maybe just I have. Anyway, here it is. In the parable of the lost son, it says, Jesus was telling this parable, and he says, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. And so he divided his property between his sons. And not long after that, the younger son got together all that he had, and he set off to a distant country where he squandered his wealth in wild living. And after he'd spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. And so he went and he hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him out into the fields to feed the pigs. Well, he was so hungry, he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything to eat. And you might want to notice that he wanted to live differently than his father. And you might notice that he became discouraged when he lived his own way and had his own circumstances. And some of it was his doing and some of it was not. You know, there was a famine in the land. And so anyway, but while he was, he said, when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I'll set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Please just make me like one of your hired servants. And so he got up and went to his father. You might notice that he decided to give up on his own solutions and he decided to pursue his father's way there. Well, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him, and he ran into his son, and he threw his arms around him, and he kissed him and hugged him. And the son said to his father, he started to rehearse it, Father, I've sinned against you. And the father, he cut him off, and he said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead, and he is alive again. He was lost, and now he's found. And they began to celebrate. It's a beautiful story. And the prodigal son would say it's a beautiful story because he knows how it ended. But when he was in the middle of it, he was very discouraged. And this is an offerings verse, so it talks about financial discouragement, but it can be anything that's discouraging you. And if this financial discouragement has happened to you, you know what discouragement is. If it's happening, you really know what discouragement is. Or it may be in the unforeseen horizon. See, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. But the cure is the same no matter what. We humble ourselves. We return to our Father in His ways. We vow to live as His faithful servants and see what He does. But how does that look? What does that look like? And hint, it has something to do with our attitudes of giving and living and how we live it out. Next slide is this one. The ultimate end point of discouragement is to surrender. But the outcome depends on who we surrender to. And with God's ways, it starts off, we're broken. But it always ends with we're fixed, and that's what He longs to do for us. He longs to fix every single thing in our life, but He asks something of us, and that's to surrender. So with that, we say a prayer over the offering. My God, we love You. We surrender to You. Please let each and every heart surrender to You and then receive all the good things You have planned when our hearts are prepared to receive it. Lord, please, oh please, find this offering holy and acceptable unto You. In Jesus' beautiful name we ask the Father. And everyone says, amen. And ushers can come forward, and we have a video about the Man of God meeting. You guys want to come to that. There's as much bacon as you can eat.
Tonight, men on a mission, or let's personalize it and just say a man on a mission. Eliab asked David a very significant question. Why camest thou down hither? What are you here for? Until you can answer that question, you will never be the man that God really wants you to be. What am I here for? What have I come through? Everything I've come through to do. Did I just come? And Eliab accuses David of something that if it is true, you will never reach your goal. He says, you just came down here to look. And we have got too many men who have spent too many years out of their lives looking at life. watching other people get in the fight, watching other people engage their lives. They're just wandering around. They're basically joyriding through life. But tonight, I believe in my heart that it was no accident that we would take this theme, that God would galvanize us and congregate us and solidify us. We might truly be men on a mission, not just men who came to watch. I refuse to watch my life go by, sitting on the sidelines complaining about who didn't love me and who wasn't there for me and who doesn't like me and who doesn't believe in me. I don't have time to deal with my critics. I don't have time to straighten out my enemies. God has given me a job to do, and I'm a man on a mission. How about you? Let's pray.
Men of God, join us this Saturday. Yes, feel free to. We men will be meeting, and we just ask, will you sign up at the information center so we can get an idea of who's all going to be there?